Hello folks, Burberry again here at the mic, uh, completing part of the reserved recordings with modern decks. This time around that's Abzan Company versus Bant. A friend of mine who's playing here, even though he has quite decent experience playing modern, but Bant is something new, and he didn't play Abzan Company, so I'm taking the Abzan Company, which is my default deck in modern, and I'm giving the Bant tempo to him because it's probably much easier to pilot than Abzan Company, the combo, even though they're quite interesting synergies in the Bant deck as well, but they're not about a combo, but just about very cute and sweet sequences here. So he's on the play, Flooded Strand, cracking that immediately. Probably has a Serum Visions or Vial, grabs an island, falls down to 19. So yes, that's Serum Visions. No, there are a bunch of like proxies in like the Bant's deck because I'm still not sure whether it's that good or not, but yeah, I think it looks fine like this for test matches. So I think he drew another Serum Visions. Oh no, it was a Spell Pierce. That's probably the card he drew with the visions, and then I saw that he looked at Witness and something and kept them on top. Maybe it was Noble and Witness. He forgot to take one from the fetch, so that's a mistake. I started with a Thicket into Noble of my own, and his turn 2 was also Noble. Spell Pierce is not amazing right now, but it could be very good later on if I attempt Collected Company or Chord, but my turn 2 is quite ideal. It's a Kitchen Finks of a Mana Dork, so that's great. So yeah, he kept Witness there, which is interesting. If he has a land, he can go like Witness and cast Visions again if he wants to. On the other hand, I think keeping up Spell Pierce is probably good. I think playing this second Noble here is kinda dangerous. Imagine if I have another land and then a company. He would really want to have Spell Pierce up with the first Noble, so I think casting the second one there was a bit dangerous. But all I have is Spellskite and no third land, I think, and I just passed the turn. Well, not of course, like attacking with Kitchen Finks first, and that's for 4. But he's virtually at 13 because he forgot to take damage off of that fetch land. And yes, I know I should monitor his plays more carefully. He has a land number 4 that's a Mutavault, which is quite decent at this stage, but depending on what he has in his hands, maybe playing an island would be better because that allows him to cast Witness, pick up Visions casted, and still have mana for Spell Pierce. He tapped the plains in a Mutavault to equip one of the nobles with a Sword of Fist and Famine, which is very good on this matchup. I barely have any, let's say, non-black, non-white creatures. There's only just Lin Valley in the sideboard and maybe like an Offenza. But this guy is now attacking for 4 actually, which is quite brutal. and I can't really block it with the Spellskite, even though that creature is not flying. So he gets to untap and make me discard. I discard Melira because I think I had an offense in hand. That's why I did that, I think. It's kind of weird. He could have actually cast Witness. No, he played the land. He played the lands. He played that Mutavault. But, so he couldn't go Witness, get a fetch, and keep Spell Pierce up. I did get to draw my third land, which is Overgrown Tomb. So that's pretty good. Attacking again with the Kitchen Things. Trying to pressure him. He couldn't block the Fangs with the Mutavault here. That's a bad exchange. Even though not blocking here puts him down to 10. The kitchen Fangs was for free because of my Noble. I'm considering whether to pass the turn or not, and I did pass the turn, but tried to cast Company on the upkeep. He was smart enough to keep up the mana for the Spell Pierce to counter that. So I was trying to bail out something like Ruse or Mystic Snake, so that then my next turn I can do stuff. It's kind of weird. So he tapped really badly here, and I correct him. Though, yeah, he gets to untap his lands anyway, because he's most likely getting in with the Noble plus the sword. Okay. So he had an island. He drew an island. So he picked up a Spell Pierce with the Witness. Because I didn't want him to untap and have a bunch of mana available, that's why I didn't. I jump blocked his guy with the sword with a Spellskite. There is a chance I should have maybe cast that Company end of turn. So maybe this way I will be able to get him, but I think casting it on his upkeep was still fine. Okay, here take 2 from Godless Shrine and offering Archangel of Foon. This was probably the evening when I had the Archangel plus Spike Feeder in my deck. Even though going forward, I think while that package is cute, but having a third Sacrifice Outlet plus a Fin Hunter is probably much more worth it. All it does, like that package, is okay, it enables some of the cute combos, like Sack Outlet plus Kitchen Things, and Archangel is already infinite life and infinite guys, and also you can play around Graveyard Hate, but I think it's not worth it, and second Sack Outlet for your main combo is the right thing, and Fin Hunter is just great against a lot of things. Now I can actually block the his sworded guy with the Archangel. I would be able to gain some life, put some counters on the things plus Noble, but that's not a great thing. I have to discard here, so because I didn't block, because I wasn't exactly dying, and I think I still had some cards which were fine to discard. Discard on Offensa here. Already 2 parts of the combo gone. I know about Spell Pierce in his hand, or at least I should be aware of that, technically. He still has a Mutavault, and still has Witness and so on, so he has some blockers available. Then it's Melira, another one. So activates Mutavault, to have a fairy in play and then sprite to counter that, so that's gone. And that was okay, because I think this was the game when the cute interaction with the Archangel actually came down. So I bail out the counter spell with Milira, and now I think he doesn't have another way to interact, because I just cast Visceraseer, and that should do it. And that should do it, even though he has blockers, but Bant doesn't really go well against infinite life. It's pretty hard. Well, I mean, impossible to actually overcome that. Not mentioning infinite creatures here as well. So even though I discarded an Offenza and a Milira, second Milira gets countered, but this Visceraseer was enough. And I was pretty lucky that Archangel stuck to play. And yeah, infinite creatures, infinite life. Bant does play 3 copies of Path to Exile and also Vapor Snack, which could have been of help here, but it's hard to be prepared for everything. So this was it. So on to game 2 here. I think this match was a best of 3, and this game was actually somewhat interactive. Therefore, we didn't feel a need for to play another pre-sideboarded game. So off to sideboarding, of course, like you know, observe this like weird like printout, but it's even though this is kind of funky, but you get to see our sideboarding process and thoughts, like how to sideboard. Uh, so yeah, even though I've posted an article, basically a primer on the Bant Tempo deck, and I did record a few videos with it, and commented also to people's opinions. Even though my initial build featured Stony Silence in the sideboard, but I think Tron and what is it, Affinity are already decent matchups, but Rest in Peace shuts down this kind of attack, more or less, and also it helps against decks like Living End, which is not the worst because you still have counter spells and such, but it also shuts down Snapcasters. It is really a luxury for this Bant Tempo deck to not be fizzled by own Rest in Peace. We don't run Snapcasters because Sprite is still good. Witness does a similar thing. So even though it is good with Rest to Angels and stuff like this, but when I built this Bant Tempo deck, I wanted just immediate value at minimum cost, because with Snapcaster you still have to pay mana for the flashback spell and stuff like this. And Witness was just better because it could bring back different card types and not just flashback stuff. So what I do is basically cut the wall. I think I was cutting the Spellskite too. Scavengenus is not great because he doesn't have Snapcaster, so cutting the walls, cutting I think at least one copy for the combo, so trimming it down to the minimum. So this is what I did, and then I brought bringing in all 4 of the Tide Hollows colors, Pride Mage for swords and vials, decays for different things. Well, okay, I decided to actually put in just 3 scholars because that day I also had a Sin Collector, which ultimately should be Avon Mind Sensor, the card Bant definitely should have in the sideboard. So what he's thinking is to trimming down some copies of the one drops, like -1 Vial, one Noble, -1 Vision, -1 Mystic Snake, -1 Rest Angel, and he's thinking of and minus. Okay, well, he's thinking of setting out Spell Pierce. It's I think I would side out just one. It might be okay to side out one. Well, he's bringing in this spell, which does pretty much the same thing in this matchup that Spell Spirit does, but it doesn't give me the chance to actually have some money to pay for the cord or for the collected company, because sometimes that might appear. So if you're like switching cards like that, then why not? Mind Sensor is pretty good, shuts down cord at least and fetches. It's still good enough. He brings in Fractusk. I think bringing Kitchen Things in this matchup is also fine. I think he should have done that too. But I would have trouble figuring out what to cut. Yeah, and he's taking out the first for knowledge. It's there just to cycle extra vials and maybe swords when you just need to draw counter spells, or just discard extra lands. So it's just a filtering draw spell. So this is what he does, though I think he should have brought in Kitchen Things too. I'm not sure what to side out. Maybe like one sprite or something. That wouldn't be too bad. I think the build still had a Vendilion click in there, which I think should be another witness, so second witness, and no click, even though it's a sweet card. And then by restructuring the mana base in Bant and adding extra mutables, you can still make sprites work just fine in the deck as regard to like fairies count. And then also, while by default, like in the main deck, there's Swords of Fist and Mammon, that's the black-green sword, and there's also the Fire Knife, so the blue-red sword. I think I should squeeze in the sideboard somewhere Sword of Light and Shadow too, because the Life Cane and cycling and recycling creatures is very valuable for this deck sometimes, and pro black, pro white is also good in this matchup. So because I'm trimming down on the combo, it's much more of a just a grind fast and just trying to outsource each other and tempo out, etc. So pro black, pro white gives protection from both DK and Path to Exile, of which I ran 2 main deck. So that would be great. I don't play with Fotsies in the sideboard, which would be fine in this matchup as well. But I play with the Scholar because in a matchup where Fotsies might be better than Scholar, it's already a gamble and just hoping for the best. But Scholar makes your companies and chords pretty decent, and also it's a fine card to bring in against burn decks because you basically slow them down. They have to spend the burn spell to get back a card underneath the Scholar. Sometimes you would even just block with the Scholar. Okay, they get back the card, but all you need with Abzan company is to buy enough time to either combo out or just gain some more life with kitchen things and stuff like that. As for the Tune and Archangel and the Spectator, my third sacrifice out of choice is Varels. I really don't like third Viserys here. Just doesn't speak out to me. Yes, it's like it's cheap and consistent and etc. But Varels just great as a late game kinda trump, great mana sink. Just like it's actually better than Cartel, even though it's 1 mana cheaper. So he had an untapped Hallowed Fountain here into Serum Visions. I just passed after laying down a tapped Temple Garden. His second land is Misty Rainforest, so the green-blue fetch land. Another Serum Visions, drawing from it and scrying. I think he's looking at the Mystic Snake and something else, and he kept them both on top. Not a great sequencing from him. I think he should have sacrificed the Fetchland first and then cast the Serum Visions. Typical mistake, basically because of inexperience. Untapped Breeding Pool takes some more damage to cast the Noble Hierarch. Flashed in my hand here, but you couldn't really see it. A lot of the time it's hard to figure out like how to flash it in so that people can actually distinguish cards. Now turn 2 from me. My hand was pretty slow, I imagine, because I sided out also the Wall of Roots, which would have been pretty fine here. Not sure exactly what was it. I think it's Rest in Peace, and he, I think, forgot to exile the graveyards. I would clarify the yeah, it was Rest in Peace, because I reminded him to remove his own graveyard as well. Rest in Peace does make your Witness a bit worse, but in matchups where you actually want to bring in Rest in Peace, it's fine. Like, you can play around that and maybe even side out Witness, depending on the matchup. He forgot to crack in that Strand. He thought it was a fountain or something, I suppose. I again should have paid a bit more attention. Yeah, that's Vendilion Click. I hope I would remind him about the fetch soon. Yeah, my hand is pretty stocked, but I just drew a third land, I think. My hand has a couple companies, Witness, Kitchen Things Path, Scholar. I think the correct line here is to actually take... I'm not sure. I think Click cannot cycle a land. I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. But I don't think you can target the land with the Click. I think he took like a path or something. Crack to fetch. Unfortunately, it's not Catacomb, so cannot fetch a swamp in order to keep this Milira deck as solidly my own. I had to make some concessions with regard to the team's card pool. Scholar looks at Mind Sensor and Resto. Easy taking Resto Angel here. Okay, I still didn't notice apparently that he tapped Flooded Strand for the Click. Then I pathed the Click. It doesn't really matter a whole lot, but this is still a very stupid thing. Now I notice that, like, what the hell is going on there? Okay, I make him, like, correct the mistake now. So he's now at correct life total as well. I'm trying to figure out if that's the correct amount of lands. sure. I think there's one land too many there. It was possible, definitely, like to fetch a forest and the island there, but it's kind of weird. Anyways, all he has right now is just a Motor Vault in play and Rest in Peace, which doesn't do a whole lot. And Fenza has a +1 counter because of the Scholar entering play. I think it was just an even Mind Sensor in hand. Yeah, like, the position now looks good. But of course, if he gets to draw something like a Path to Exile, things of that nature, and then get rid of the Scholar and gets back the Resto, things could get ugly. But my hand was super stocked, and he kind of flatted out. So for those of you who are playing Abzan Company and are kind of afraid of Rest in Peace, please don't be, because Rest in Peace doesn't really kill the deck. It does affect you a bit, but not too much. I don't know exactly why I attacked into... yeah, so that's why. He knew about the companies, and I think I'm not the one who's been trapped and misplayed. I think he kind of misplayed. Because now, all I need is to, with the company, to actually get a decent flip so that I can manage to bolster... yes, so manage to bolster the Scholar. That was a bad flip from the company, which hit only Voice of Resurgence, but that was enough so that I could bolster Scholar, and it survived after being blocked by Aven Mind Sensor. He kind of should have double blocked with the Motor Vault as well, so that was definitely misplay on his part, and I think he just drew another land and scooped it up. Because like this second game wasn't going in a very interesting fashion as we hoped, so we're moving on to another game, even though I'm already up 2 games, so you'd get to see a bonus game. The mistakes from my friend, like, who been given bans, were not super bad, and it's actually pretty easy to make this mistake and not double block the Scholar with the Motor Vault. If he would have had like another creature in play and not a manland, then it would be much more intuitive to double block, because especially because he knows about the company, but keeping in mind company and also Anafanzi in play and what she can do, it's hard. It is definitely hard to keep track of all those things. Also, there was a pretty good chance that even if I would flip 2 creatures from company, they would be stuff like 2 nobles or something, and I would be forced to bolster both of them instead of the Scholar. So it turned out well for me, but I don't think I should have attacked with the Scholar, because if I kind of fizzle, then the outcome is pretty bad for me, because he can get back to Resto, which can block a lot of guys for a lot of time. Also, I probably shouldn't have attacked with the Anafenza either, because there is also pretty good chance to fizzle that too, and if he decides to double block there, that's pretty bad too. I know, actually, no, that's not bad, because If it trades for Mutavault plus the Mind Sensor, that's not bad at all. I would gladly take that trade. Um, he started with the Mutavault into Avir Vial. I started off like cracking the fetch for a forest, I guess. I know, tomb. I guess I had some scholars or decays in hand. So I should be at 17 actually here. It's really weird that he started off with a Mutavault. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, so I should be at 17 here. He fetches up Breeding Pool, goes down to 17. I definitely should be at 17. Oh well. It's kinda tricky, because sometimes when, let's say, you're playing a test match, you're way more relaxed. Also, your opponents are also way more relaxed. It's very unlikely that in a big tournament things like that will be unnoticed. So I do apologize for this like small missteps and discrepancies, but yeah, this is one of the reasons why it actually narrates these videos after the matches are played, so that people don't get me by surprise telling me that's like this and that happened and it was unnoticed. Well, now you know, definitely, and I know. There was the decay on the vial on my part, and I was thinking whether to attack or not, but he had an untapped Mutavault, so I definitely didn't want to suicide my noble into Mutavault here. So passing the turn, he draws. Basically, the fact that I decayed now was that his vial was in 1, so the scariest thing that could happen was just a noble. And next turn, of course, like I could have basically, in response to the trigger from the vial, like kill it, but it gives him a chance to, I don't know, do something. And I interact, even though the K can't be countered, so it's hard to say like what could have happened. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, perhaps I just didn't have another good play there. But something tells me I had. So I probably should have decayed on upkeep in response to the vial trigger. Here I just cast out Voice of Resurgence plus a Viscerasier, so establishing some board presence. We can see that he has a Familiar's Ruse and a Fractusk in hands, which he can actually cast here. It won't be too bad. He's probably debating whether to hold back on this Familiar's Ruse, but I think in this situation he probably should just go for it and cast Fractusk. This is kind of weird that he just went to attack with the Mutavault for free. That puts me down to 12, but I think he probably should have just cast a Fractusk. The downside of doing that is that if I just draw a Chord of Calling or draw a Company, then if I resolve that and hit some good value creatures, then he would be maybe too far behind. But as it stands, the board is still not looking good for him, I think. So if I don't draw like a Company, Chord wouldn't be insane here, because that will kind of time walk me, and I probably wouldn't have cast it on my own turn. But Fractusk probably had a chance of kind of stabilizing the game for him. Of course, hitting Chord is a very likely scenario, a Chord or Company. Instead, I hit a Gownie Township, which is still pretty good, and now I can actually attack and use up the Township because I have the Noble as the missing mana source. So he just took free from the voice, and I passed. Supposedly, just maybe attempting activation of township, or just casting something here. Goes to attack with the Mutavolt, so attack free, go down to 8. Virtually actually at 7 I think, because I still didn't mark that 1 damage from the fetch on the first turn. Go activate the township at the end. That happens. Now I have a better board. I can still block a Mutavolt with anything, basically. I'm debating, like, what should I do here? So I have land number 5. I could just activate township again. Instead, I want to see like what's going on. Ruse grabbing back noble. That was probably correct. I think he just had to do that there. Okay, so Scholar did not resolve. I hope I'm reaching here for an elemental token of some kind. Yes, I did. So this actually worked out pretty nicely for him. And I kind of forgot about the voice and the fact that it was my turn. So think casting Ruse was kind of bad idea here. And as you can see, because he was holding on that Ruse all the time, he's getting far and far out of this game. Now he casts Fractus, but it's too late. If he would have casted like 2 or 3 turns ago when he could the first time, he would have been in a much better spot. Also, he tapped like kinda awkwardly. Well, okay, casting Noble basically as a chump blocker. But because of Township and a lot of different things, I don't really care so much. And now I had Chord available for another piece. He kind of thinks that the writing on the wall, but I tell him not to concede yet because I have just 1 combo piece in play. So it's not like I'm chording for the missing part. But despite me being at 8, it doesn't look good for him either way. There is a chance that I should have just perhaps cast a chord in my turn and see what I draw. Maybe I draw a second piece and then I can chord into the third piece for the combo. Also, there is a chance I should have just sacrificed the Voice of Resurgence so that I would have had an extra green untapped creature, another token, so that maybe I would be able to chord for free. But I had a hard time imagining that that would matter. If I would be holding like an Archangel in hand, then yes, sure. But I'm not sure if I kept that combo package in. I think I might have, because I was expecting him to board and rest in peace. And Archangel Spike Theater doesn't care about that enchantment. So, and keeping Voice alive makes his plays much worse. Also, it's an extra value body, so something to attack with into Fractask and you are not afraid if it dies. Still have enough mana to activate Township here. The token right now is a 5/5. If he blocks the tokens, I just Township and the token hits the Fractask for free, which is not great. So he's kind of forced to block the Voice, which is not great for him, obviously. Because I want to do more damage, I still use the Township before damage. So this way the token, the elemental does more damage, even though Voice will die anyway. I can, yeah, I want to trade with the Fractask, so I'm not sacrificing Voice before damage to Scry. Doesn't seem like a great idea. So I get another elemental, he gets a beast. That dice on top of it just represents like the size and not the counters or anything. He's in a very loosey spot, so yeah. Um, it's hard to say like it's probably a good matchup like for Abzan company, so and not a great matchup for Bant tempo, but the draws from Bant were pretty bad. I think there is a chance to win in that matchup, but with such draws, definitely not. Voice is a big part. Voice is a big part. Really love this card. I play 3 copies main deck. I know Logan Mice, who played that deck at the SG Players Championship. He played 4 voices, but he played them in the sideboard and not main deck because he was just all in on the combo. He even had his Camuginus in the sideboard and not in main deck. So my approach is just much more flexible, not super much leaning on the combo. He plays 4 chord, I play 3 and 2 path main deck and 2 decay sideboard. So I'm trying like to be as flexible as I can so that my deck is, even though a lot of the time you can win just on the back of Township. And his version plays even 3 copies of Township, while Industry's average is just 2 copies, but I feel like 3 townships is just a lot to ask. Although in his version with 4 birds, 3 nobles, and 2 walls, I believe, uh, he does have quite a lot of like ways to negate that. I think this version was playing 2 walls, 3 birds, and 3 nobles. Now I'm like -1 wall, so just 1 wall left, but 4 birds. I play 1 less chord, for example. Um, I don't know. Maybe I should go back like to playing 2 walls. It's hard to say. It's kind of hard to say, but I need all that space and kind of reluctant to cut anything. So yeah, there is a chance that Band Tempo might benefit from uh, playing Supreme Verdict in the sideboard over Soul Rift Temptation. I actually think that this might be a much better option in the sideboard for matchups like this, or for any basically creature-based matchups, of which there are quite a few actually. It also gives a good out against Boggles, for example, and against Merfolks, which might be problematic. Okay, folks, have a nice day. Happy holidays once again. I think I still have some material left before New Year, and before New Year I might record actually more. I hope you enjoy